Good morning. The four aces. That's a winning hand. As a matter of fact, the entire minor arcana lives inside these four aces. And that's what we're going to talk about this morning. Happy Saturday. I hope you've all had a nice restful evening and are ready for a nice, safe, and calm and sane weekend. It's a big weekend for me. Tomorrow I'll be celebrating my 45th anniversary of my Minerval initiation into the OTO. And I'll talk more about that tomorrow. You'll be sure that I'll be doing that. But right now we're going to talk about the four aces. And we'll start with the Ace of Wands. That's what it looks like, all those yods. The Ace of Wands. With the Princess of Wands as its throne, the Ace of Wands rules the Cancer, Leo, Virgo quadrant above the North Pole. And if you would project that downward from the North Pole, that would be generally the area of Asia. The original title was Root of the Powers of Fire. The Golden Dawn model was a hand appears from clouds at the bottom of the card, holding a three-branched flaming club. The three flames issue from the ends of the right and left branch, and four flames from the top central branch. The whole is surrounded by 22 red flames or yods, arranged as to suggest the paths on the tree of life. The color is brilliance. A little quote from the Book of Thoth. This card represents the essence of the element of fire in its inception. It is a solar phallic outburst of flame from which spring lightnings in every direction. If that was how Crowley described his vision of this card to Harris, then we'll have to admit she did a magnificent job. The Golden Dawn model is more complex in its description than its description might suggest. Some renditions I've seen are almost comical in their attempt to fulfill all the required images. Harris throws them all out of the window and gives us the image of a huge tree of life ablaze with 10 flaming Sephiroth. In a very real way, this image is telling us that, just as all the Sephiroth of all four trees of life are only aspects of one supreme Kether, just as all the Kabbalistic worlds are really only aspects of the highest world, just as the He and the Vav and the final He of Yod He Vav He are really only aspects of the Yod, all the cards of the minor arcana ultimately live inside one card, the Ace of Wands. Of course, it takes a Buddha to actually grasp that concept. It also leaves us with a pretty thin deck of tarot cards to play with, and nothing for publishers to publish, hardly. It's probably better for us to go along with the Kabbalistic drill and view this card representing Kether as representing Kether of the Tree of Life that represents the highest of the Kabbalistic worlds at Zilith. that's a heavy enough concept as it is. This card is the masculine complement of the Ace of Cups and is derived from the lingam and the sun, exactly as the Ace of Cups is from the yoni and the moon. And that's a perfect segue for us to briefly introduce the Ace of Cups. And I'll be talking about that little pretzel on the cup there in just a moment. The Ace of Cups, with the Princess of Cups as its throne. The Ace of Cups rules the Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius quadrant above the North Pole and the area of the Pacific. So, just to remind you, if you were flying in a helicopter right above the North Pole, and you drew a line straight going south all the way to the South Pole till it comes back again to the North Pole, using Giza in Egypt as that line, and split the entire globe up into 4 quadrants, and those 4 quadrants, with the positioning of the Earth, surrounded by the belt of the zodiac, the quadrant of space above our North Pole there. If we would project those quadrants down all the way, this would be the area of the Pacific. The original title is Root of the Powers of Water. Oh, incidentally, I posted a little diagram of the princesses and the aces and how they rule the quadrants. I posted it just a few minutes ago on my page. The Golden Dawn model is a hand appears from clouds at the bottom of the card, supporting on its palm the cup of the Stolistis, that's a Golden Dawn officer, from which gush fountains of water. The Hebrew letter He is formed by the spray of the fountain. The water falls on all sides into a calm sea where lotuses and lilies grow. And the color, because it's an ace, white brilliance. Little quote from the Book of Thoth. This card represents the element of water in its most secret and original form. It is the feminine complement of the Ace of Wands and is derived from the yoni and the moon, exactly as that is from the lingam and the sun. So I'm hearing all sorts of clicks. I'm wondering if I'm being broadcast this morning. Can anyone give me a little comment or a hint that I'm actually broadcasting? Well, I'm going to continue as if I am. And if it didn't work, we'll just do this again tomorrow. The Ace of Cups is a stunning and vivid image of the cosmic yoni. In Wagnerian terms, it is the Holy Grail, as to the Ace of Wands, sacred lance. The Golden Dawn model has more or less been discarded, and Crowley's description in the Book of Thoth is that of an earlier draft of the card, not Harris's finished product. This is nonetheless one of, if not the most beautiful cards in the entire deck. Scalloped radiations of light burst from the cup to meet and match the undulating waves of water on the horizon, at the horizon of the sea. Harris repeats this motif of scallops in the dress of the Princess of Cups, suggesting perhaps a relationship as the throne of the ace. The cup itself is a simple blue bowl with what appears to be two blue-green entwined serpents serving as handles. For reasons that are not altogether clear to me, Harris has placed 3 interlaced rings, the same as those that crowned the Hierophant's wand in Atu 5 on the front of the cup. This symbol, which Crowley described as representative of the 3 aeons of Isis, Osiris, and Horus with their interlocking magical formulae, is not to be confused with the more complex Mark of the Beast, which we find on the Ace of Discs and the Prince and 5 of Wands. One can only speculate why Harris was moved to apply this symbol to the cup. Moving on to the Ace of Wands. Isn't that gorgeous? Do you see the word thelema in Greek on it, or is it that way? The Ace of Swords. With the Princess of Cups as its throne, the Ace of Swords, the Ace of Swords. Okay, with the Princess of Swords as its throne, the Ace of Swords rules the Capricorn Aquarius Pisces quadrant above the North Pole and the general area of the Americas, North and South. The original title is The Root of the Powers of the Air. The Golden Dawn model is a hand appearing from the clouds at the bottom of the card, holding the hilt of a great sword that penetrates at its point a radiant crown. An olive branch hangs from the right of the crown and a palm branch from the left. 6 Hebrew vavs fall from the sword point at the top of the crown. The color, white brilliance. You sort of see a theme with all of the aces being Kethers and brilliance and white brilliance. From the Book of Thoth, the Ace of Swords is the primordial energy of air, the essence of the Vav of the Tetragrammaton, and the integration of the Ruach. And Ruach is one of those 4 major parts of the soul. The Nephish being the animal soul, the Ruach being the intellect or the reasoning, and the Braya being the soul intuition, and Adzalith being the highest, being the archetypal world. Okay. And the Neshama. Neshama and the Yekida and the Chai. Don't let me confuse you this morning. Let's just read from the book. The Ace of Swords is the root of the element air and represents the Ruach that Lon's trying to explain. Ruach is the intellect part of the soul, and according to Eastern mystics, the mind is the great enemy. The mind violently resists identification with any higher levels of consciousness. Consequently, from out of the mind springs conflict, frustration, anxiety, worry, and sorrow. Is it any wonder that the suit of swords is filled with so many unpleasant cards? However, in the proper hands, the sword can be the weapon that cuts through the crap, and the Ace of Swords is the sword of the Magus, crowned with 22 rayed diadem of pure light. It's gorgeous. It's just absolutely gorgeous. In Magic, Liber ABA, Book 4, Crowley describes the sword, and I can offer no better description of this card. Quote, "The hilt of the sword should be made of copper. The guard is composed of 2 crescents, of the waxing and the waning moon." Back to back. Spheres are placed between them, forming an equilateral triangle with the sphere of the pommel. See, there's the sphere of the pommel. There's the triangle. The blade is straight, pointed, and sharp, right up to the guard. It is made of steel to equilibrate with the hilt, for steel is the metal of Mars, as copper is of Venus. The hilt is Venus for love is the motive for this ruthless analysis. If this were not so, the sword would be a black magical weapon. The pommel of the sword is in Thoth. The guard extends to Hesed and Geburah, and the point is in Malkuth. That's what he said in the Book of Thoth. Upon the blade, Harris is engraved in Greek the word thelema, will, in Arabic Damascenid work. Okay, finally, this morning, it's a wild and crazy morning. The Ace of Discs. Now, I'm going to talk about all these designs, these sort of feathered or plant life designs. And of course, there's Crowley's Star of Babylon and the Mark of the Beast in the center, and it says 666. Now, usually in tarot card creator tradition, the Ace of Discs, or sometimes the Two of Discs, serves as the creator or the artist's personal signature disc. So it's appropriate Crowley put his 666 Mark of the Beast on his Ace of Discs. Okay, finally, the Ace of Discs, with the Princess of Discs as its throne. The Ace of Discs rules the Aries, Taurus, Gemini quadrant above the North Pole, and the area of, generally, Europe and Africa. Original title is The Root of the Powers of the Earth. In the Golden Dawn model, a hand appears from the clouds at the bottom of the card, holding the branch of a rose tree, surmounted by a large disc composed of 5 concentric circles. The center is white. It's adorned with a red Greek cross and radiates 12 white rays that reach to the innermost edge of the disc. Above this is a circled Maltese cross with 2 white wings. The color is white flecked gold. And here's a little quote from 196. I'm going to see where I quoted this from. Hang on. Because it's kind of clever. It's from the Book of Thoth. Steal not this book for fear of shame. The Ace of Discs, the author's name. Incidentally, on when we designed our tarot deck, the Tarot Ceremonial Magic. The Ace of Discs is a version of my own magical disc, and it's the pattern for all the discs in the suit too. Okay, to represent the root of the element earth in the material world, Asaya, Lady Harris gives us the ultimate coin of the realm, centered upon money green layers of vegetable embellishments that historically have adorned the world's currency. Now, stuff like that. Stuff like that. A tarot tradition dating back to the 16th century Italy, where decks of cards were stamped and taxed by local authorities, dictates that the creator of the deck place his or her mark or signature on the 2 or ace of discs. Crowley was obviously aware of this tradition, and I think we can be confident that he supervised its execution very carefully. The Ace of Discs is nothing less than Crowley's own magical signature. His motto, Tu Megatherion, Greek for the great beast, is displayed on the perimeter of the disc. And his personal seal, the mark of the beast, is placed in the very center of it all. And within the heptagram, we find the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast is made up of 3 intersecting circles. The uppermost circle contains a dot and it's at its center, creating the astrological symbol of the sun, cradling the moon. Cradling the sun circle from below is an upturned crescent moon. Together they are the sun and moon conjoined, the symbol of so many things that I'd be an idiot to even start a footnote. The number 666, the number of the sun and of the beast, is written across the 2 lower circles. This symbol is rich in magical and Kabbalistic symbolism. One can also, with very little imagination, see a bird's eye view of the 3 main characters of the male genitalia. It's perfectly Crowley. It's sort of a bird's eye view, if you catch my drift. It's a bird's eye view. And the dot in the center of the circle, the top circle, the upward pointing phallus, is the little lip-like slit of the meatus of the penis. And with that, we'll stop our little discussion of the cards this morning, the 4 aces, and tomorrow we'll start chapter 18, the crazy mix-up world of court cards. And I will hope to post a couple of charts and diagrams and graphs from this chapter 18 to help us understand the rulership and the allotment of planets and zodiacal signs and degrees and decans and things like that to the lesser arcana cards. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow. Hopefully, I'm going to dig up a few historic pictures of my 45 years as a magical soldier in the army of the OTO, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great weekend, everyone. Continue to be good to yourself. Be careful Actually, it's never been more dangerous out there than it is right now. Be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.